My name is Officer Serrano. I'm here with the Gardena Police Department. We have two of our explorers from our Explorer program, Hurtado and Castro. My colleague, Detective Bazan over there, who's really good at answering questions if you have any while I'm up here. We just wanted to introduce ourselves, show our presence in the neighborhood, and go over some general facts. So if you haven't contacted the Gardena Police Department, we actually have a really good outreach program. The city itself is divided into 3 districts, if you didn't know. Every district, 1, 2, and 3, is assigned several officers for every shift. There's 4 shifts, meaning 4 district officers per district. I'm a District 3 officer, which means I cover everything south of Redondo Beach Boulevard all the way down to either Electric Street or 182nd Street is the general area. I'm here pretty much just to answer questions. If you have any concerns about crime trends, if you have questions about how to actually deter crime or proactively prevent them, I'm here for that. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor in about a minute or two. Please ask any questions you guys want. If you're worried about things like burglaries to your vehicle, to your home, if you want to know where certain crimes are going, if you guys have been watching the news recently and saw the tons and tons of fireworks that were confiscated by the Gardena Police Department, I can try to answer as many questions about that. Most of the details are above my pay grade, but I can kind of give you some info that I know about where it was and exactly how many fireworks were confiscated. Unfortunately, it's just a dent, but a dent is better than nothing. So hopefully it turns Gardena from the 2008 war in Afghanistan to like maybe a small little celebration the way it's supposed to be in 4th of July. I don't know if you guys have lived in the city long enough to know what it's like on the 4th of July. But you can barely, it looks like a heavy fog driving to the city at night. Yeah, that's what the smoke from the fireworks. And that's even on the main highways like Rosecrans and Western. You can still sometimes barely see. But here, just generally for that, obviously JCI is right next to the south part of Gardena, so this is where I'm patrolling a lot. Officers are allowed to patrol citywide, but they have their focus on where they're designated. There's certain areas when you arrive for your day or night shift where you're set to be responsible for, but Gardena is such a small town that we can patrol the whole city if we need to. But anyways, like I was saying, please, if you guys have any questions about policing, patrol, even the detective side, my colleague over there can answer questions. Or the explorers too, if you guys want them to answer questions about their program, I'll go ahead and refer you to them. Explorers, if you didn't know, are kind of like, I'll get to your question right now, are kind of like our version of the Los Angeles Police Department's cadet program. So usually people from 14 to 21, is it? 14 to 21. Who are motivated, who want to learn about law enforcement, who maybe have a career in law enforcement planned in the future. The Explorer program is really good for them. They get trained the same way we do. They actually just got back last week. If you want to go look at either our websites or any of our social medias, I'll tell you all about it. There is a California Central Valley Explorer program competition. There was what, 35 departments that send their Explorer programs out there for different things such as hostage negotiations. They can tell you a lot more about the comps, but we actually took first place, so that was really cool.
Wow.
Kudos to them, they were there. He did it before he broke his hand, so he was able to do everything. I don't know if he would have got the first place now. But you had a question, man?
I had a question.
Yes.
I was watching the Gardena firework extravaganza. Coolness.
I like that. I'm going to use that name.
Yes. And I was wondering if perhaps someone might possibly have collected fireworks that did not get used back in the day, and someone has, say, some fireworks, where could one get rid of the fireworks safely?
Are we talking about unsafe fireworks?
Well, I mean, I don't think unsafe. I think, you know, even the safe and sane, you shouldn't have them for over whatever. Correct. You know, so if you're going to give up the fireworks, where should you go?
Police department's not a good place, or is a good place to start. You can actually contact the fire department as well about that.
Okay.
They might have, I think the fire department would be the number one. They're more versed, obviously, in the dangers, and they probably respond to more calls regarding fireworks than we do on the 4th of July, other than having to enforce the law. But when it comes to dangerous side, which is what I'm assuming you're speaking of, because they can either be expired or dangerous.
Yeah, expired.
The fire department's a really good place to start, and they also do disposal too.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What made you decide that you wanted to become a police officer?
Oh, we're taking it there. Well, when I was growing up, so my personal story is when I was growing up, I actually, at a young age, my mom got me hooked on it. We used to watch all the cool crime shows back in the day. Cold Case Files, Forensic Files. I don't know if any of you remember those shows.
Forensic Files is great.
It was a great show. And I kind of just had a very curious mind growing up. I would read a lot of mystery books when I was a child, like elementary school type stuff. So it kind of just hooked me, and I knew I always wanted to do it. I just wanted to wait for the right time to apply. I know the bottom age minimum is 21 technically, but I'm sure, as all of us can agree, at age 21 we probably weren't all the most mature. At least the men in the room. Women, you guys mature at a very young age. You guys are way ahead of us. But at 21, I knew myself I wasn't ready to get in this game. It's a crazy job, and you have to really be focused and have a good life experience just to even deal with the normal stuff, let alone the top of the training that we need to do. But I knew since I was a young age that I wanted to. I'm still trying to I'm young in my career, but I'd like to be a detective one day. Because of the Forensic Files, that kind of just got me hooked on that side of the job, investigating and helping people out. I genuinely like helping people. So whether it's something small or little or all the way down to the nitty-gritty stuff and in between. Answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions for the Explorers? Pretty cool program, to be honest.
Yeah, how did you guys decide you wanted to be?
You guys can stand up when you talk. It's cool. Don't be shy.
You can go first.
Oh, you first.
All right. So stand up. There you go.
Alright, so pretty much I was referred to Gardena by someone who works here. I don't think you guys know him, Luis Contreras. He actually told my aunt about the program, about Gardena, so that's where I first found out about it. So I just applied there, and yeah, I've been liking it. Training programs.
Yeah, a lot of our explorers, sorry to cut you off, get referred. So it's usually outreach from somebody that works there or somebody that's been part of the Explorer program before. That's how they get their foot in the door. Almost anybody can apply. I don't know exactly the application process. I think it's just the age limit. And if you have the availability, because it's a lot of stuff like on the weekends. Kudos to these guys. I don't know if when I was 16, 15, around their age, if someone told me like, hey, do you want to go spend all day at a festival and like in a uniform, I'd be like, too busy playing sports or something like that. But I think they're super ahead of the game, especially if you want to get into this line of business. The kind of training that they get will put you like light years ahead of someone like myself who apply, and I got nothing other than my people skills pretty much when I got here. So like he has the tactical stuff. They do room sweeps, they get fake guns, and all kinds of dangerous parts of the job. They learn how to negotiate with crisis and stuff like that. So they're super ahead of the game. I haven't heard anything bad from all of them. I know they like it.
Your turn.
I learned about this program from my dad. He was previously an explorer. He was also a captain for this post, so he introduced me to when I was young, and I said I would be interested in joining it. And I did. Now here I am.
Get first place.
Wow.
All right.
How'd you break your hand, dude?
I was wrestling.
Oh, nice.
For sport, not just with his friends on the,
Right.
the weekends. He does it in
That's
his
a
school.
worthy break.
And
Where at? Where you go?
North Torrance.
Nice. I went to North.
they had a good roast. They've always had a really good wrestling.
Pretty decent.
I went there too. And then obviously they can't do anything without good leadership, so they need people to train them. And there's always people in our department who, as a side gig, they devote their time and what they've learned on the job to go ahead and teach these young men. And actually my colleague Detective Bazan over there is an Explorer advisor as well. So she was also at the competition, and obviously they teach them what they know, they supervise them and everything. So if you have questions, she's good at that too. Any questions regarding crime trends, things in the area, what we deal with as police officers on a daily basis? Any and all in between. We welcome all questions.
What about smash and grab? The things that we've been hearing about. Smash and grab.
Fortunately, unless you can correct me, we don't have too many, I would say, department store types, or the closest thing we have is Target. And I think we are so on top of thefts there because we're one of the few departments, at least I know of in the area, that will respond. I know I've arrested somebody for like taking $50 worth of stuff from Target. So just as much as the citizens, and you guys know how you have like the Nextdoor app and text message spreads or even calls, word of mouth spreads, like, hey, this is what's going on in our area. Believe it or not, criminals have the same thing, and word gets around enough to stay away from Gardena, because they know that even depending on the legislature and what happens after we do our part in the thefts, we can't control that. But even they don't want to be, we'll say, quote unquote, inconvenienced, you know. We still take what they stole. We'll tow their car if they were there. They still have to go to jail. They still have to get booked, regardless of the end result. And most of them don't even want to go through that. And if they do, we'll do it too. We'll do that. But things like the Lamo Mall incident, we don't
That's
have.
Torrance, right?
Fortunately,
That's
correct.
Torrance PD, yeah.
Fortunately, we don't have a giant hub center of things like that, Home Depot, or things where smash and grabs can happen. And that's just fortunate enough to not have that in the city. So that's a much bigger problem, and we would have to increase our manpower a lot just to even have one of those things in the city. So I would say Target's probably the only one, and we stay on top of it pretty well. Yes, sir.
Is there a more uptick in home burglaries that you notice citywide or not? Or?
Honestly, home burglaries have kind of dropped, unless you've heard anything on the other side of it. Yeah, they've dropped. They were obviously really high in COVID, one, because criminals couldn't get easy scores on the street because there was nobody outside their homes. And I think once COVID ended, right at the end of it, there was a little bit of a spike because people obviously went back to work. So criminals were like, oh, the houses are empty again. But once again, nothing locally that I've seen. I couldn't tell you the last time we had a home burglary, maybe one or two within the last year. And it was kind of like an inside job where it was someone they knew. Not really anybody driving around, busting into homes. It's the cars. They like the easy scores. They're opportunists, so that's why you see the people sometimes on camera or even on websites where they're just like trying to open car doors. Because believe it or not, a lot of people leave their cars unlocked. A lot.
Don't forget to lock it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll walk inside like you have a heavy trip of groceries. You walk inside, you forget to lock your car. Yeah. Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I'd actually like Officer Bazan to stand up. I want to answer a couple of questions.
Okay, you're gonna have to ask her for that one. Yeah, the crowd's gonna have to get her going for that.
How's your job different? As being a female, if you show up on the scene where you're the first one on scene, and there's this big tough guy, and they might start mouthing off. How do you handle that kind of stuff? What kind of training do you get for that?
So we have 13 females, and we don't really encounter that type of problem because we're all treated the same. And sometimes we even become a better tool for our department because when they see a male approach them, it's kind of like an ego thing. If you tell a guy, hey, do this, they kind of like take it like a challenge. Now when you have a female, they kind of like think about it and they don't approach you that way. For the most part. Sometimes you do get those belligerent, drunk, and people that are having mental problems or going through homelessness. Then you have a whole different problem, but that would just be with male and female. It wouldn't just be just because you're a female. But no, it doesn't. We haven't really encountered a problem where they treat us differently because you're a female. We're all trained the same. To de-escalate a situation is probably the best thing that we can do. Obviously, girls or females talk a lot more, so we use our verbal judo in order to tell someone to do something. We don't have to like immediately go to a use of force or making people do whatever needs to be done.
So what made you decide to be a police officer? When you were a little kid, your mom said, you're going to be a police officer. Well, what made you decide to be a police officer?
It's completely opposite. My mom did not want me to be a police officer. I was 14 years old and I was in a police explorer program. So I became very involved since I was the age of 14, and my mom hated the idea of me becoming a police officer. She didn't want her daughter to do something where her life was in danger every day. So
What does she think now?
she still hates it. It hasn't changed. But
So do you ever get women coming up and say, I want to be a police officer? Does that ever happen to you?
women come
Other women walk up to you and,
Oh yeah, all the time. Yes. Obviously, because it's not very common in law enforcement to have a lot of females. But now that if they see more females in law enforcement, it's more like they can do it. They feel like it's doable.
So if they ask you, what do you tell them how to get started? How to become a police? Where do they go? What do they do?
I would tell them to finish school. Go to school, get that done, and then find a good mentor to kind of tell them how to do it, and then get a good agency to work. Gardena is the best agency that anybody can work for. So if you guys know of anybody that wants to be a police officer, male or female, we're currently hiring. And we also have a lot of explored spots, so we kind of guide them into that. But yes, get a mentor, finish school, stay physically available and ready to be able to pass that test.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
We'll call her back up.
No.
Let the record show my mom's not happy about me doing this either.
That's right.
We just had that shared experience, but she's worrying about me every day and night. That's another thing. And just to piggyback off that answer also, I think the married men in the room can coincide and understand that if the right woman's telling you to do something in a certain way, you're going to do it. So I think that happens on scene a lot, honestly. Some of our females carry that command presence a lot better than we do too. I think it's just a biological thing at that point. And you'd be surprised how many, even the criminals, how many dudes will listen to them when they get on scene. That's all though. Yeah.
I'd like to give a shout out to our volunteer Gardena Police Department.
We do have a good volunteer program if you didn't know. If you're retired or even if you do work and you've got some spare time on your hands, in the same sense that we have an Explorer program, we have a volunteer program for adults, and they help us with all kinds of things. If you speak to the lead volunteer, his name's Hector Burgos, he's going to preach city beautification to you, which means he can drive around, and if there's any illegal dumped furniture or if there's a traffic accident, he can make it aware, clean it up. The city public works department is very good at partnering with us and making sure the city looks properly and everything's up to safety code. They also help with traffic control at accidents or even in major incidents or even at parades and events we have in the city. They help out with a lot of things. And they're also accepting applications, so if you feel like you have some time on your hands, if you're retired and you're bored, feel free to reach out to them. We actually have several volunteers in the room. If you could raise your hands actually, please, that'd be awesome. Gardena Police volunteers. So they're very helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. They'll be able to answer them better than I can. But yeah, thank you for the time. We will be here at our table for the remainder of the festival. Feel free to approach us, take some of our cool giveaways, and ask more questions if you want.
Thank you very much.